So what I've got here is a property that's, I call it small and mighty. I'm going to share my screen here.
Mm-hmm.
Just a sec. All right. So this is just kind of an aerial. I don't have like a professional presentation for this property. It's more just kind of showing it on the map. I feel like it's better suited for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's in South Mountain here, South Phoenix area. And for those of you that aren't in Phoenix, which Dave and Josh, both of you guys aren't, South Mountain area, this is kind of a popular mountain. This whole corridor down here is really considered South Mountain. It's been I've got somebody logging in here. This area has been kind of developing over the last 10 years or so or more. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. This life is logging in. So here we are. This is Central right here, Central Avenue, which runs north and south for the whole city. The light rail right now is being developed on this road. So it's up here. This road right here is tore up. They're installing the light rail. And so the city is really like increasing density in this area. It's kind of like a gentrifying area. There's a lot of new development that's just starting to happen. And it's also, there's a lot of like retail and jobs and stuff around this area. So it's east of Central, which is always a good sign in Phoenix, being east of Central. The parcel that I have under contract is right here. And they say one man's trash is another man's treasure. Well, this is why right here. It's a total hoarder's house. It's actually like a junkyard, right? So this is a house, and he's got a shed and a giant shed. He brought me in here is actually like from the 40s where they used to like hang old cows and like a meat packing shed or something. It was really disturbing, honestly. But the house inside is even worse looking than the yard, which is kind of funny. But I don't really care because I'm not buying it to rent it. This is not a typical rental property with cash flow. It's a little bit of a different play. But this street here, so last year I bought a parcel right up here in October or November, and we've been targeting all these property owners because I really like this area. And so we started discussions with this guy in November or December. We spent a couple of months going back and forth. And finally, when we struck a deal, we got it under contract. And I've actually extended it a couple of times just because I was doing my due diligence. For a while, I wasn't sure if this was a dud or a grand slam. And so I was really just, extending it because we had him in a tight contract. But I came to the conclusion that it's definitely on the grand slam side. And this is just the beginning of it. So a little bit more about this area. I call it Little Mexico. Like this whole area is really, it's old, it's kind of run down. It's predominantly a Hispanic community, but there's development happening. So this property right here, these are all fourplex buildings, and they're not new, they're old, but somebody bought those a few months ago, and one by one, they're starting to renovate those. This is a big open parcel right now. Nothing's happened yet. I'm not sure what the plan is, but I think something's coming here. This is like a 20 or 30 unit little one-story apartment community that's older. Nobody's renovating it yet. And then up here, there is I guess somebody else logging in. Up here, there's tractors moving right now. Okay, so they're gonna build something there. And then over here to the west. Hey, Jay.
How's it going?
Hey. I already got started, but if you missed something, feel free to give me a hands up or something, and I'll catch you for a question. All right, so this property is currently under construction, and it looks like dirt right now, but it's built, and they're building 18 brand new apartment townhomes. This project is already fully built. These are nice and new. These are individually parceled townhomes, so they're sold, not rented. And there's just a lot happening in this area. Caddy corner from the parcel that we've got right here is a big school complex. So this is an elementary school right here. And then there's a middle school right here. and then there's some other academy here. So it's all within walking distance, literally catty corner. And again, it's close to this Central Avenue corridor. Now, the city has designated certain area away from this as, what's it called? I'm drawing a blank on the name, but they're basically increasing density allowances for developers in this area. It's called an overlay, and we're just outside of it. We're not in that overlay, but they are basically wanting to increase density and even just by like reducing parking allowance. So if I didn't say it already, the plan with this property is actually we're going to scrape the lot, we're going to clear it out, bulldoze it, and get it shovel ready. And I'm going to copycat what somebody else has already done on a similar property just 3 miles away. And I'm going to share more about that in a second here. So a couple of cool things about what we have under contract with the guy. So we actually have a 50% seller carry note. This owner has owned this for many years. He's got a lot of equity. So he's going to carry it for 50%. The purchase price on the parcel is $450,000. So let me step back. We're buying it for $450,000. It's 1.13 acres for this parcel. So a little bit bigger than an acre. And the seller is carrying a note for half of that. So $225,000. And the terms of that note are 4 years at 4.5%. So it's really reasonable. Now, in addition to that, we have a few other things in the contract that are highly in our favor. Okay. Number one, the guy, look at this. He thinks he can sell this and make some money. He's going to have an auction company come in and sell this and all the crap that he has inside, but he hasn't moved out. So we gave him up to a 1 year lease back. And there's an escrow holdback. So out of his proceeds, the title company holds the money, and they're going to pay me rent every month until he moves out for up to a year. That rent is $1,750 a month. And the monthly interest that I'm paying is going to be $875 a month. So it'll actually like produce a little bit of cash flow along the way until he moves out. And then I have an additional holdback at escrow if he doesn't sell all this stuff or doesn't clear it out in an acceptable manner. I think we have a $40,000 holdback that I can use as those funds to pay somebody to clear that out. So a couple of cool terms that we were able to negotiate with this guy. What else? So the zoning on this lot right now, even though it's single family, it's a multifamily zoning, and the zoning calls for 16 units per acre. And we have just over an acre here. But the city, I've already had 2 meetings with the architect and the city. They have this thing called a PRD bonus. And so you can apply for additional units. So we could potentially get up to 20 units on this lot. Now with that, you have some land restrictions, like they want to see more open space and more amenities. So it's like a give and take. But that's something that we're going to be exploring with the city. And the goal really is to be able to sell this as a shovel-ready lot with fully approved plans to a developer. My A plan is just to sell it to a developer. The B plan would be to maybe take this through development on our own. And then B.2 is actually we're trying to acquire these parcels as well. All right, so there's 4 individual parcels. We have a meeting with 2 of the sellers coming up. Neither of them seem like there's no motivation for them to sell right now. So I don't know if this is going to come through in the near future or not, but it's something that we're going to be working on to see if we can combine all of these for one big parcel on the corner, catty corner to this school complex. But if not, this parcel alone, this parcel alone is a huge return. And if we can add these, it's just even better. Just looking at my notes to see what else. Okay, so the comp that I'm using, I mentioned I'm going to copycat somebody else's plan. So my architect is the same architect that designed this for another guy. Somebody else bought a lot. He actually bought 3 lots. He combined them to be 1 acre. Okay, and this is just us in an acre. They got the zoning density. It's the same zoning as our parcel. They got the bonus to 20 units. They scraped the lot and they had plans designed and approved through the city. And they just sold it as a shovel-ready development project to a developer. And so, like I said, my architect is the same one. But this one sold for 1.3 million bucks. Okay. That's just shovel-ready dirt to a developer that wants to start right away, because usually developers are usually using construction loans and time is money. So if they have to sit 2 or 3 years while it goes through the entitlement process, that gets pretty costly. So a shovel-ready lot is pretty enticing to developers. And this closed in September of last year. Okay. Which is arguably a harder time to sell than it is right now. But nonetheless, it's similar, right? So a cash deal to a developer. And in terms of location, so this isn't it's not in the South Mountain corridor, but it's not too far away. It's about 3 miles from the property that I'm buying. This is Southwest Phoenix, which, this is a rough neighborhood. So the property that we're buying is like down here. So it's not in the same exact area, but it's about 3 miles away. Similar area though. Some people might say that this is even a rougher area. But to me, this is a pretty strong comp that I'm just going to duplicate what they're doing. And should take about 2 to 3 years. Everybody that I talk to with development, getting things through the city, takes about 2 to 3 years. So for me, this is a 3-year game plan. And then I'm going to share the numbers on this real quick. Let's see here. So the way the numbers break down on this property, purchase price and commissions, we're in for 463. We've got closing costs in here, some legal fees, budget, the cost to demo, I've already got a quote on, holding costs for taxes and insurance, budget for architecture, design and engineering. So to get this from start to finish, basically we're looking at about 586,000 bucks. That's if we were all in for cash. We've got the seller finance interest for 3 years, assuming we take it that full amount. The interest is 31,000 bucks. Potential rents coming in for the first 12 months, 21,000. And with that, I mean, we don't need to scrape the lot right away. There's a lot of architecture and meetings with the city that you got to go through. So honestly, if he stays there the full 12 months, that's even better. And if he wants to stay longer, I might be okay with that, depending on where we're at with the process. But if you add that all up, we're into it for just under 600,000. That's if we're in all cash. Again, we've got a seller carry note here. And so really the capital invested is going to be about 350,000 bucks. And then if we take that $1.3 million comp and add a little bit for the extra space, if everything were to stay the same between then and when we go to sell, we would look at a sales price just under 1.5 million bucks. I usually factor on a 6% selling cost for selling commissions and title fees and stuff. So what that means is if we were to sell for this dollar amount exactly, selling costs and take out our basis, proceeds on this property would be over 760,000 bucks with all cash, 220% return in about 3 years is what we're expecting. So if I were to do this on my own, that's how I'm going to double my money in 3 years. I was going to do this on my own. That was the plan for many months while I was doing this, but somebody reminded me that that goes against my bigger picture here and what I'm building with bringing in investors, bringing in friends and family and sharing the wealth. I've got bigger goals than just this one property. And so that's why I'm doing this webinar right now. I haven't really brought this to anybody else. I know people are interested. The webinar is also easy because I could do this once instead of 10 times with 10 different people. But really the way it works is I split the profits 50-50 with my investment group, passive investment partners. So I find the deal, I put it together, I operate it, and I work for free until you know, we get paid equity and the capital gets paid back first. So basically on this deal, I'm doing this all pro bono for 3 years and I'll get paid on the back end. The capital goes back first to the investor partners, and then the profits that are left, about $416,000, get split 50-50. And that's how we operate. I feel like it's a win-win that way. I don't take fees or management, you know, charges along the way. I just, I work for equity. I'm not really a transactional guy. So that's the high-level overview of the numbers. And then just to give you an idea, like some conceptual stuff that I'm looking at with my architect, what we could do with the lot. You know, there's a lot to be determined here, but here's one conceptual design of what we could do. Attached 2-story units. The lot is approved for a max height of 30 feet, which you could do 2 floors. So they have certain requirements we need to work through. They would want a certain amount of staggering. Like, I don't think they allow all 2 stories, but all that stuff gets worked out. You go back and forth with the city a few times. Here's another cottage style project that he designed. We talked about doing just like duplexes on the lot, because when you do 3 units or less in a building, actually, you can get away with the residential building code, which costs less to build than the commercial building code, as opposed to if we did like 2 10-unit buildings. So there's things like that we're going to be working through in terms of design and what's going to be most appealing to a developer. Because that's, like I said, that's the goal, is to sell it to a developer. But the options are to, at that point, bring in more money or construction financing and develop it on our own, or potentially, hopefully, make a deal with these parcel owners and combine all the lots. So that's it. That's the overview. Anybody got any questions?
I do.
All right.
Thanks for the presentation. Looks good. Is there a minimum investment you're looking for that you, I mean, like, is
Yeah,
there?
good question. I meant to go over that. So since the capital needed is 350, it's not a whole lot. The minimum I'm going to allow is 50,000 per investor on this. However, I will say that it makes the most sense to do it with the fewest investors possible. So if 1 or 2 people want to do the whole thing, then that's probably likely what we'll do. And if we bring in these down the road, there might be more opportunity for getting in on it. However, I will also say sometimes, like, I need 50,000 to round out the total amount, or 75 or whatever it is. So does that answer your question, Josh?
Certainly does. And then you answered it great. And then the second question I have is the evaluation that you have on it being, I think, 1.4 at the end of it, using the comp of another similar transaction. That transaction was closer to the city of Phoenix, even though it's as rough of an area. How much do you factor in that this is, 3-4 miles away from the downtown Phoenix area?
It's a good question. I mean, I can't really tell you with all certainty. There's a certain percentage. Generally, the property is going to be worth to a developer what it can rent for and what their NOI would be after it's built. And I will tell you that I've talked to the guy that bought this, and he's using maybe $1,800 to $2,000 a month comp for 2-bedroom, 2-bath, brand new units, and that is definitely doable in this area as well for brand new units. I mean, when you factor in 2-bedroom, 2 baths, Hispanic community, they can walk to their schools. That's it's pretty valuable. So I was comfortable enough with this comp to move forward with this on my own, and I still am. Let's put it that way. I don't know if that gives you any more confidence, but it's also going to be 3 years out. So there's no doubt about it. There's some risk involved in this. There's no ongoing cash flow. So there's, more risk, get more biscuit. And so that's the way I see this. There is a little bit more risk, but, to me, the risk is not that much, and the potential reward is pretty substantial.
Got it. When do you need a decision by?
Yeah, good question. So if you're interested in participating, the timeline on this, we're closing at the end of this month, which is what, 2 weeks away? Again, I was planning on doing it all on my own. So I need to know soon. I need to know by the end of this week. I've got this form here. If you haven't been through this before, it's a simple form. I'll put it in the chat. And this basically tells me that you're interested. It's a soft commit, a letter of intent. There's nothing formal about it, but this just tells me, hey, you want in. If you do change your mind, that's perfectly fine. But this allows me to know who's serious and who's not. So I need you to fill this out by the end of the week. And it's got basic info, your name, if you're going to invest through one of your entities, tax numbers, address, and your max capital commitment. Okay. And so whatever that is, be honest here. Let me know. If you want in for 50,000 and that's the most you can do, then put that in. If you want in for more, then do that as well, because like I said, it will go into my decision, because it doesn't make sense for me to have, 7 investors in this. I don't think that's good for anybody. But there's probably room for 1 or 2 smaller commitments. And so that's it. It's a simple form. After that, we're looking for funding next week. Okay, because we're closing on the 30th. So that's the other thing, is you've got to be fairly liquid and be able to transfer funds next week. We create a new entity. So it's a brand new LLC, and my investment partners are all members in that entity. So I've got an operating agreement. If you're interested and serious, I'll shoot that over to you so you have time to look through it and review it and see if you got any questions. But otherwise, we need the money next week, and we're closing on the 30th, which I think is in 2 Tuesdays or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all the questions for me.
All right, good.
Steve?
Yep. I'm gonna put this in the chat here, this link, and then if you're interested, just copy it real quick, because it's going to disappear after this. Or just click on it so it's in your browser. You don't have to fill it out now, but that way you've got it saved if you're interested. Cool. Well, if that's it, I appreciate your time. We respect everybody's time. It's 12:25, and have a great rest of your day.
Good job. Thanks, Pete.
All right.
Thanks, Pete. Appreciate it.